So we started out boiling about 3 pounds of diced potatoes and peeled them and put them into chunks. So I'm going to just let those hang out in the boiling water until they get nice and tender, and we'll get back to the potatoes in just a minute. First, we're going to start with the cabbage part of this recipe. So I'm going to melt a little bit of butter, a few tablespoons of butter, into a large skillet, and I'm just going to shred up some cabbage. I think cabbage, I happen to love it, but when you boil cabbage, a lot of people get kind of turned off by it or turn their nose up to it. So this is a nice way to do cabbage, is saute it. Or last week on the show, we actually we roasted cabbage, which is something that is really nice to do too. You can drizzle it with butter, drizzle it with olive oil, season it with some salt and pepper, and get it into an oven and roast it that way, and it really gives some great flavor. I mean, if you're a big fan of the boiled corned beef and cabbage and you like it, great, but this is a great way to get the kids to eat cabbage. Sneak it in with the potatoes or roast the cabbage. So I'm just melting some butter. Potatoes and cabbage, of course, big in Ireland. I'm just going to do a little bit more cabbage. Hope you all had a great weekend. I think St. Patty's Day, being that it fell on a Monday, a lot of people celebrated kind of over the weekend. So it's been a full-on thing. Let's see, what did I do over the weekend? Okay. It was a busy weekend. Played tennis with a couple couples on Friday night, and then we went out for pizza, which was great fun. Played tennis on Saturday. It was a lot of tennis this weekend, and then worked at the concession stand at Notre Dame High School. They had a big basketball tournament there, and it was so busy. It was crazy. Ireland and I worked it together. We walked in, and it was just lunch hour, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was slamming jamming. So actually, it was a lot of fun. And then Saturday night, Bob and I went on a date night. We went and saw that movie that everyone's talking about, 12 Years a Slave. It was unbelievable. It was absolutely incredible. So I encourage you to see it. I learned so much, and it's really well done. And then last night we did a nice family dinner. My husband Bob's very Irish. I mean, with kids named Ireland and Riley, we got to be, right? And I'm also a little bit Irish. So my husband has this Irish tradition where every St. Patty's Day he turns the Irish music on in our house at first thing when we wake up in the morning. And Riley's home. Riley's got spring break, so both kids grumble about it, but you know deep down inside they really like it. So last night Riley was saying, Dad, you're not going to blare the music this morning and of course first thing this morning the music went blaring. The other thing that he does, he has a lot of Irish friends over the years, people who he went to school with, and so they start calling each other, and it's kind of a gag, whoever can call the earliest. So the phone calls continue all day long with different, friends catching up, and it's just a kind of a fun tradition. But anyway, the phone did not ring at 4 a.m. this morning, which I was pretty excited about. I'm not sure exactly what time the first phone call came, but it wasn't as early as it's been in the past. So, but it's just kind of a fun thing that they do on St. Patty's Day. So, all right, cabbage is cooking, and it's still going to retain that nice green color, which is what I like about this dish. And I'm also dicing up some scallions. So this is going to have some green in it for St. Patty's Day. Very inexpensive dish to make, but it's got a lot of great flavor in it. And by the way, this recipe is a recipe that you can pick up at Super Ron's in Pulaski. So they've got it right there for you. So I'm just going to season this cabbage with a little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm going to add my scallions. And I'm going to get to work on mashing these potatoes. Some of the other recipes we're doing on the show, I talked about corned beef. I always do a couple of corned beef roasts because they tend to shrink down, and also I love leftovers. So we're going to show you how to turn those leftovers into a few other great meals. We're doing a new twist on corned beef hash. Who doesn't love corned beef hash? This is a cheesy corned beef hash, really delicious. And then later we're going to show you how to do a Reuben omelet. So an omelet with corned beef and some other great ingredients in there. All right, so our onions are in, our butter's in, our cabbage is in, a little bit of salt and pepper. So I roasted cabbage last night, I mentioned that, and both of the kids actually, both of my kiddos really liked it, and they actually had seconds or thirds of it, and I kid you not, they've always turned their nose up to cabbage in the past, and they're like, what's that? What smells so good? And both of them really, really enjoyed it. So, and Riley is a really picky eater. Ireland's a little bit better as far as not being so picky, but they loved it. And they were huge fans of corned beef, so. Okay. So I'm going to drain these potatoes. I'm going to mash them right in the same pot. Now what I normally do when I'm mashing potatoes is I first kind of just get in there and see, these are perfectly done. I like to cook them boil them for about, depending on what size they are, about 25 to 30 minutes. You want them to be really nice and tender. And I'm not a big fan of using a mixer with mashed potatoes because it tends to be kind of, you can overmix them and they get gluey, so I really like to mash them by hand. You can use milk or heavy cream in this recipe. We're going to use our Lamer's heavy cream, which we happen to love. The big believer of heating up your cream or your milk just a little bit, and I think that that makes the mashing go also quite a bit easier. We'll do a little bit of extra butter in here. The cold milk or cold cream with the warm potatoes, again, that tends to lead to a gluier potato, and I don't like a sticky, gluey potato. I like a nice, I don't mind lumps, especially in this dish. This dish is very rustic. It's supposed to really know you're having homemade potatoes, but I just don't like it when they get gluey and sticky. Let's see, did that heat up enough? No, I'm going to do a little bit longer on that. So what are you cooking for St. Paddy's Day? And do you have any wonderful Irish recipes? If so, we love hearing about them. So please email us your Irish traditions and your recipes. Later, we're doing one of my other favorites. It's a 4-ingredient beer bread recipe that goes great with corned beef and cabbage or soups, stews. If you're doing an Irish beef stew, I do an Irish beef stew in the slow cooker that's fantastic. And this is one of those quick breads that you can whip up in no time. And I don't do it just for St. Paddy's Day. I do it all the time just to kind of round out a meal if you need a bread. Okay, so I'm going to add my cream. And I add just a little bit of a time. Just depends on how much you need. Salt here. I can tell I need a little bit more. These are really looking nice. Perfect. Aren't these gorgeous? Now here's the fun way how you serve these. So our cabbage and our onions, I'm just gonna, might as well finish the rest of it here. are nice and sauteed, but they're not overcooked. They've still got a gorgeous green color. So what you do is you add the cabbage and the onions into the potatoes. You don't have to do all of it. You can just serve some on the side, but let's see how we go here. So that gets mixed in. And then what I do is I serve this in bowls. Now again, I mentioned that you can do this, and sometimes in Ireland what they do is, I said they don't, this fond is of corned beef. That's more of an American Irish tradition. But they do ham over there. So, and they'll do a boiled dinner with ham. So if they've got the ham kind of shredded up, they'll sometimes mix this in with the Kilcannon. So this is great with shredded ham or shredded corned beef diced up in this, or you can serve it more as a side. So when I serve it in a bowl, and then what you do is you make a little well, now that's a big serving, into the potatoes. So you take a spoon and make a little well in there, and this is also very traditional what they do. And then this is piping hot. I don't know if you can see the steam rise from that. So then you take a little bit of butter, and then what happens is, of course, that butter is going to melt, and you're going to have a lovely pool of butter along with the potatoes, maybe a little bit of salt. And there you go. It's a very traditional Irish dish. It's called Kilcannon. And you know what? Why not give it a try? It's very, very easy to make, and it's absolutely fantastic. And you'll find that recipe on the website. Coming up, we've got some more fun recipes, perfect for St. Patty's Day. We're making a cheesy corned beef hash. Later, I promised you a 4-ingredient beer bread recipe, shepherd's pie, and if you can't get to Ireland and you want to celebrate, we've got a place not far at all that has everything you're going to want, from Irish music to Irish food and a whole lot more. So we'll check it out coming up. Stay with us.